You face the clerk and raise your right hand and be sworn, please.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you give in this case will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I do.
Have a seat. Slide up the rail, please, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
Hello.
Can you please introduce yourself to the jury?
My name is Natasha Hawthorne.
Okay. And did you formerly go by Hawthorne Smith?
Smith Hawthorne.
Smith Hawthorne, excuse me.
That's okay.
I apologize. And where do you live? You don't give me your address, just general state.
Florida.
You do live in Florida?
Yes.
And you live in North Florida?
I live in South Florida.
Okay. Do you know Henry Segura?
I do.
How do you know Henry Segura?
We were dating for some time.
Back in 2010,
Mm-hmm.
talking about November 2010, how long had you known Henry Segura at that time?
Close to a year.
Were you living in South Florida at that time as well?
I was not. I was living in Tallahassee.
Okay. Did you talk to him on the phone?
Yes.
Do you remember what phone number it was you were talking to him in November 2010?
There were two.
Okay.
I don't remember the numbers though.
All right. If I were to show you, could that possibly refresh your recollection?
Possibly.
Okay. Does that help refresh your recollection?
Not as far as the number is concerned, but definitely that we communicated.
Okay. Do you remember one of the numbers being a 509 number?
Yes.
Okay. And what about the other one? Would that be a 408-8669?
Possibly. Yes.
Does that sound familiar?
It sounds familiar.
Okay. And that's the number you would normally use to communicate with him? Or a combination thereof, excuse me.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Did he ever talk to you about his kids in Tallahassee?
Yes.
Did he ever tell you about Javante?
Not that at some point he mentioned that there was a child that the mother said was his child. He didn't know, it was a very brief conversation.
Did he ever tell you he was murdered? We're talking about November 2010 now, not today. But did he ever tell you that child was murdered?
He did.
Okay. Do you remember talking to him back on November 19th, would have been a Friday night, getting a text message or a call from him around 10:30 that evening?
Vaguely, yes.
Okay. Do you remember what time it was, roughly?
It would have been later in the evening. I was preparing to go to a party that night. So it would have been probably, I don't know, somewhere between 9 and 11. I'm not sure.
Okay. Fair to say, obviously, it's been a long time since
It's been a long time.
2010. Okay. Do you remember anything about where he said he was?
I'm not sure that he told me he was anywhere. I don't recall that he told me he was anywhere. I recall that somehow I got the impression he wasn't at home or he was headed home. He may have said something. To be honest, I don't remember.
Did he remember anything about him saying about passing Publix or going to Publix or anything along those lines? No?
Vaguely, yes.
So possibly that he was talking to you about possibly on that evening going by a Publix or in the general vicinity of a Publix?
I remember that I was getting my nails done at a Publix, and so that could have been where the comment came from. I just don't remember specifically.
Okay. All right, but that doesn't sound incorrect.
Doesn't sound incorrect, no.
Okay. The person, Henry Segura, that you see, that you're talking about, that you had the communications with the two different phone numbers, including the 408-8669, do you see him here in the courtroom today?
I do.
Can you please point to him and indicate an article of clothing, please?
He's here sitting at the defense table, and he's wearing a black blazer.
Okay. May the record please reflect he's indicated the defendant, Mr. Segura. No further questions, ma'am.
Cross. Very briefly.
Ma'am, at the time of the murders in this case back in 2010, you were in a sexual relationship with Mr. Segura, correct?
Correct.
And when you were interviewed by the police and you told them y'all were just friends, why was that?
Well, there were a number of reasons, but primarily because he was married.
And do you recall specifically that after his son passed away the year prior, he made a promise to his wife that he wasn't gonna run around anymore, so y'all were trying to keep the affair more secret than he had been in the past.
Your Honor, I object to hearsay.
Overruled.
I don't recall that happening because I didn't know him then, but I recall him telling me that, yes.
You do recall him telling you that?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, no further questions.
Redirect.
No, Your Honor.
Right, and juror have a question at this point. All right, you can step down.
All right, this time state will call Tyra Wilcoxon.
Your Honor, can I approach very briefly, Mr. Fuchs?
Yep. You would face the clerk and raise your right hand to be sworn, please, ma'am.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you give in this case will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Have a seat, slide up to the railing, please, ma'am.
Sorry, Your Honor, I need to get that off the witness man. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Can you please introduce yourself to the jury?
Hi, I'm Tyra Wilcoxon.
Okay. And Ms. Wilcoxon?
Spell your first and last name, please,
First
ma'am.
name Tyra. Last name Wilcoxson.
Thank you.
And Ms. Wilcoxon, back in November of 2010, did you know someone, Henry Segura?
Yes.
How did you know Mr. Segura?
We were dating.
When you say you were dating, you were in a sexual relationship with him? As well as going out on dates and things like that?
Wait, 2010. No, but around 2010, I think we weren't. Like, we were, but then we kind of stopped. Around November, we wasn't.
Okay, so by November, you had stopped seeing each other?
Yeah, we weren't.
When were y'all seeing each other then?
Probably like '09. Well, we were still cool, but we wasn't like how we used to be.
All right, so y'all were still talking,
Right.
but you weren't dating and in a sexual relationship then in November 2010?
No, we wasn't.
Okay, all right. Did you talk to him regularly around that time?
Not regular. He kind of like was popping up.
I'm sorry?
It's more like a pop-up.
More like a what?
Popping up.
What does that mean?
That mean like, bringing food or talking, check.
So it wasn't a regular thing, it was just on occasional, just pop up out of the blue, all of a sudden start talking again?
Yeah, we was cool. When he was bored or probably in town.
Okay, all right. Was one of the phone numbers you talked to him on was 408-8669?
I know it started with 408. I can't tell you the last. It was a 509 and a 408 number.
Okay, so you
10
remember,
years ago.
You remember all right, okay. Long time ago, but you
Right.
remember a 509 and a 408 number?
Right.
Okay, all right. If I were to show you something, would that help refresh your recollection on that 408 number real quick? Maybe?
Maybe.
All right, tell you what, take a look at it and let me know if it does or not. And hold on one second. Does that help refresh your
Yes.
recollection at all?
Mm-hmm.
What was that number?
408-8669.
Okay. Do you know whether his wife knew of y'all dating?
Yes, she knew.
How do you know that?
I told her, and there's so many incidents. He had her on speakerphone. He asked her for a divorce. Me and him was there. She was like crying and said, another incident, we was in Savannah, Georgia, when I did a restraining order on him. Another incident when we was in the
All right,
car.
we'll talk about a whole bunch of incidents, but
What?
she knew about it.
Yeah, I mean, we was in the, yeah.
Okay. Just prior to the murders that we're here for today, did you talk to him about a gun?
Yes.
What did he say?
He came to my house and asked could he use my gun.
You have a gun?
I have several.
All right. Did you let him use your gun?
Of course not. My name on it.
And that was right around the time these murders occurred?
Yeah, it was around the time it was, well, I don't know when the murders occurred. I was, getting ready to pack to go to Orlando to the Classic for that weekend. It was like towards the end of the week because I know I was packing up my clothes, and he asked me did I want to go make some money in Minnesota or wherever he was going to work at. I was like, nah, because I ain't really trust him no more after the Savannah. If I don't got my own ride or whatever, I wasn't going nowhere with him.
All right.
It's like it only take one time and
So it was
Cross.
as you were packing to go to the Classic in Orlando
right.
back in November of 2010 that he asked?
Yes.
Okay. All right. The murders occurred on November 20th of 19th, 2010. Would have been a Friday. That help refresh your recollection about when it was in relation to the murder? I know it was a long time ago.
I was just getting ready to go out of town, and he came over there, lip quivering. He was red. He asked me, could he use one of my guns? And I told him, like, if I come across something in the street, like a burner gun, I'll let him know. Because, of course, we were cool.
Like a what?
A burner gun is like, my name ain't on it. Somebody in the street selling a gun or, just a gun in the street.
So you're talking about a street gun, one that's not connected in your life?
Not connected to me, yeah.
And you told him you let him know, but did you ever give him a gun like that?
No.
Do you see Mr. Segura here in courtroom?
Yes.
Can you please point him and indicate an article of clothing, please?
Indicate, what now?
Could you please point to him and indicate an article of clothing? What color suit is he wearing?
Black suit with a cream shirt and tie.
May the record please reflect as indicated defendant, Mr. Henry Segura. Thank you.
Cross.
Ms. Hawthorne, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Isn't it true that when you and Mr. Segura were in Savannah, Georgia, he ended up putting you out of the car? Isn't that correct?
Yes, it is.
Not only did he put you out of the car, he also put your belongings out of the car, correct?
Yes, it did.
And you two were there together having a romantic relationship, were you not?
We was there working.
You were working together,
Yes, we were.
but you were staying in the same quarters,
Yes.
and you previously had a romantic relationship.
Yes, we did.
So it's safe to say that when you left, well, let's first establish, how did you get back to Tallahassee?
That's my personal business.
I'm sorry?
That was kind of my business, how I got back.
Was it an Uber?
Call it what you mean.
I mean, you tell me. You tell this jury. How did you get back to Tallahassee?
Oh, a friend.
A friend brought you back from Georgia.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, actually, when I met a guy over there, and
So-
he took me to the Greyhound. I caught a bus back.
So you had to catch a bus back to Tallahassee.
Yes, I
It's
did.
safe to say you were quite upset with Mr. Segura, were you not?
No, I was fine. I had a big check. I was good.
You had a big check. You were good.
I knew that my actions was gonna be a reaction because he told me that. He said, "You do what you do, and I'm gonna do what I was do." Before I even acted, I already had a plan in place. Somebody told me do what I want. I had met another guy there. He was like, "I got you. Whatever you want to do." So he was like, I had an option to tell Henry wife or not tell. I had met like a new guy there. That was kind of part of the problems.
Oh, okay. So I understand. You had met a new guy in Georgia.
Yes. Mhm.
And so you were ready to break it off with Mr. Segura.
Not really.
You weren't.
I wasn't married to nobody.
I understand that. Mr. Segura was the one who was married.
Yes.
And it's true that you actually called Mr. Segura's wife while you were in Savannah, correct?
Yes, it is.
And you told Mr. Segura's wife that the two of you were messing around, correct?
Correct. I told him I was gonna tell her.
Okay, and that is why he got upset with you, correct?
He was upset before I called him.
Well, he was certainly upset after you called her, right?
Yes.
And that's why he left you in Georgia, correct?
Yes.
Now, after after you became aware that Miss Peters and her children were murdered, you didn't call the police, did you?
I didn't call the police. Why would I call the police when I found out somebody got killed? Why? I'm confused.
Okay, well, let's clear it up. You contacted Crime Stoppers, correct?
I didn't call Crime Stoppers. I anonymously wrote. To make it make sense, what I learned at school, what I was doing is, I know that Crime Stoppers don't read emails. They don't reply. I changed the IP address. I sent an email of everything I know. That's what I did. I didn't talk to anyone. And that was going to be if something was ever to hit the fan with me or him, that was my alibi. That was my discovery. That was everything. On that day that I found out, that's what I did.
You contacted Crime Stoppers,
Yes,
that's
I
correct?
wrote a letter, an email.
You read a letter. So you contacted a national organization that
Yes.
pays people for information.
Yes,
And so the information that you provided to Crime Stoppers, you didn't contact the local law enforcement.
No.
You contacted Crime Stoppers.
yes, I did.
And you did that so that you could get paid money, correct?
Wrong. I did that for discovery or for if something was to happen to me or him. If I ended up in this situation, that was my thing that I was going to have with the date on it.
So you expected Crime Stoppers to protect you.
I didn't expect Crime Stoppers to do anything. That was my document. You always document anything that's going on and that's happening. When I found out something happened to Brittany, all of my neighbors knew that Henry didn't belong there. All my sisters knew. That's what I did. That's the smart thing to do. You let everybody around you know what's going on.
Okay, so let's be clear. You didn't go to the Leon County or the Tallahassee Police Department
No,
to document anything, did you?
of course not.
You didn't go to the Leon County Sheriff's Department to document anything,
For
did
what?
you?
No.
You didn't go to
I didn't
any
want
other...
to be involved, period.
I'm sorry?
I didn't want to be involved, period.
Except for with Crime Stoppers, an
I didn't want to be
organization that
involved with
pays you
Crime
money.
Stoppers.
Your Honor, I'm going to object to argument.
Yeah, let's not argue with the witness, please.
Thank you.
Yes, Your Honor.
I did that in secret. I know for a fact that they don't read and they don't do the emails because an incident that happened with someone else that I know. I tried to stop somebody from doing something stupid. So I secretly did an email because they went to tell the police who shot them. And I noticed that this guy never got picked up, nothing never happened. So with me doing the Crime Stoppers, no one would know. That's just my thing that I did. That had nothing to do with Crime Stoppers or the police contacted me. I didn't want anything to do with this case, the police, or nobody.
Okay, so, but it's your testimony that you wanted it to remain in secret.
That is my document with the date on it of everything that, if anything ever had to occur or happen.
Except you hired an attorney to help.
I'm going to object.
Sustained,
I didn't
sustained.
hire.
Ask another question. Be quiet, Mr. Will Clark.
Oh, okay.
She'll ask you another question.
Okay.
Did you continue to, let me rephrase it. Crime Stoppers to this day still has not paid you anything, correct?
They don't owe me anything. They didn't use the information.
Right. And so they have not paid you anything,
No,
correct?
they didn't.
Just a second, Your Honor. Your Honor, may we approach?
We have a little microphone that I'm supposed to talk to there at the sidebar. Sometimes I forget. Sometimes I rustle papers on top of it and drive the court reporters crazy. But anyway, you may inquire, Ms. Baker.
Thank you, Your Honor. Now, Ms. Wilcoxon, you stated that you wanted to keep your involvement secret, correct?
I didn't have any involvement.
You
My
stated
involvement in what?
earlier you stated that when you provided information to Crime Stoppers, you chose Crime Stoppers instead of law enforcement in order to keep your involvement secret.
My involvement, you still saying my involvement. I wasn't there. I didn't commit anything.
Okay, the information that you knew, you wanted to keep that, the information that you knew, the fact that the information came from you, you wanted to keep
I was
your
following
identity
instructions.
secret.
My sister told me that's what she said, contact Crime Stoppers. She said if it was her husband, she'll turn him in. So I was like, nah, what I want to do, I made my document, like I did what I thought was best for me to do.
Right, and so you agreed with your sister that you should keep your identity secret.
My sister didn't say anything about keeping my identity secret. She told me I should contact Crime Stoppers.
Okay, and do you recall retaining an attorney by the name of, let's see. Bill Waters?
Yes, I did.
Okay, and you hired Bill Waters in order to help you get your money from Crime Stoppers, correct?
I hired him because I was doing a lease or rental. He was helping me with something else. And then I asked him about that, about this case. We had other things going on. And also with my sister divorce, we was hollering at him. He's a family lawyer, attorney, or something like that. I don't think he do criminal.
So at the time you hired Bill Waters, it's your testimony that Crime Stoppers was not giving you a hard time with paying you any money.
No, they weren't.
And you're saying that Bill Waters was not hired in order to help you get this money.
Well, I was mad at Crime Stoppers because I was kind of dumb at the moment. I feel like the reason investigators and people would come to my house, I thought it was because Crime Stoppers. I thought that they outsmarted me. I was like, I kept getting like cards in my door. The investigators kept coming by. I kept ignoring them because I didn't know what they wanted. Then they finally caught me home, and I thought that all of this was because of Crime Stoppers, but Crime Stoppers didn't have anything to do with it. It was because I had a restraining order on hearing while the investigators was trying to talk to me about this case. It was other stuff going on in my life. It's not just this. So like for the people to keep coming to my house, I thought they was trying to come to talk to me about, I don't know, but I didn't know that it had anything. I thought that it was Crime Stoppers' fault that I'm here, like right now. Like, the investigators wanted to talk to me about this case. I thought that the whole reason why they was at my house and all of that, until I got downtown, they told me why they said because of the restraining order.
And to be clear, that was a temporary restraining order, correct?
Yeah, it was.
And it was never a permanent restraining order put in place,
I never,
correct?
no, correct.
And because you dropped the petition, correct?
Yes, I did.
No further questions.
Redirect.
Yes, Your Honor. Trying to make a little bit of, figure out what we're talking about. You initially reported to Crime Stoppers and you were trying to remain anonymous, correct?
Correct.
But you were trying to document what you knew and pass it along, correct?
Yes.
Okay. At some point you talked to an attorney because you thought Crime Stoppers, and when you contact Crime Stoppers, were you of the belief that they keep things anonymous? They wouldn't tell you they wouldn't find out your name or know your name?
I don't think I put my name on there.
Okay. So you felt at that point you would remain anonymous?
Yes.
And in fact, that's kind of what Crime Stoppers does. If you report us, we're not going to say who you are.
I don't even know who Crime Stoppers are.
Okay. All right, fair enough. But then you talked to, then officers started showing up at your door.
Yes.
And it was after they started showing up at your door, you talked to the attorney because you felt that Crime Stoppers had caused this problem.
Yes. It was like 2 days later they started showing up. It was cards and everything, but Crime Stoppers say they didn't even use my information because I was trying to figure out what I kept ignoring the cards, the little business cards that were stuck in the door. I wasn't home anyway, but my neighbors were giving it to me. It was like, what's going on? It's like a thing, like in the street, they say like making the block hot or whatever. Because the police just kept coming by, so we trying to figure out like what's going on, like why they.
Let me stop you right there, okay? Bottom line though is you contacted Crime Stoppers anonymously.
Yes.
Told them the information you had.
Right.
Okay. At that point, were you afraid of Mr. Segura? You had a restraining order on him.
I was uncomfortable. I'm not gonna say I was afraid, because when you're afraid, you make mistakes. You got to always, I was taught to not, when you're afraid, you don't think clearly. It's like, I was uncomfortable. Like, one time, when he showed up at my house, I was very uncomfortable.
Okay. You were uncomfortable with him coming over and requesting the gun.
No, I wasn't uncomfortable then.
Were you uncomfortable with the fact he came over all red-faced and angry?
That's when I think that's the time when he asked for the gun, when he was red-faced and angry.
So you were uncomfortable for other reasons?
No, he came back after that.
Okay. So he came back after that, and that
Yes.
made you uncomfortable,
I
and
didn't
as a
want to
result,
do
you contacted Crime Stoppers.
No, I contacted Crime Stopper. It was on a Tuesday. I know exactly when I contacted them because I went. It was on Facebook. When I found out, the day that I found out she died, I was probably later than everybody else. I found out like on a Tuesday because we had a mutual friend. I had one of those like Obama phones, like it don't do like all the fancy iPhone stuff. That day. I think I had 2 phones, but I got home and got on my computer and I contacted my friend and I told her to call me now. This message is still on my Facebook.
All right, we got it. So it was on Tuesday.
Right.
You decided we found out about the murders.
Right.
And you decided to contact Crime Stoppers and tell them about what you knew.
After I talked to my sister, yes, I did.
Okay. All right. No further questions.
Any juror have a question at this point? All right, you can step down. Do we need to keep her further?
No, Your Honor.
You're excused. Thank you for being here. Call your next witness.
Your Honor, this time state law, Calvin Moore.
What was that name?
Calvin Moore.
Come on up here, please, sir. If you face the clerk and be sworn, please.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you give in this case will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, ma'am.
Have a seat. Slide up the rail, please.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Can you please introduce yourself to the jury?
My name is Calvin Moore.
Mr. Moore, do you live here in Tallahassee?
I live in Wakulla County.
How long have you lived in this area?
Born and raised in Tallahassee, mostly.
Do you know Henry Segura?
Yes.
How do you know Henry Segura?
We grew up together.
I take it that means you obviously known him for a while then.
Yes, sir.
If I can draw your attention to November of 2010.
Okay.
Y'all hanging out during that time period on a pretty regular basis?
Yes, sir.
At some point, what do you do for a living? Or let me ask you a question. What do you do for a living now?
Fire and security.
I'm sorry?
Fire and security for contracting, supporting the military.
Okay. Back in November of 2010, what were you doing?
Around that time, I think I was back home. I came back home from spending time overseas. Spent about, I think I had a week home, probably about 2 weeks home.
Okay. You were doing stuff overseas?
I was contracting overseas,
Doing what?
firefighting.
Okay. Now, Mr. Segura, I believe, was a welder by trade at that time, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. When you say you were overseas, where are you talking about?
Afghanistan.
Good work over in Afghanistan at that time?
Yes, sir.
Did you ever talk to Mr. Segura about possibly working over in Afghanistan and using his welding skills?
Yes, sir.
What were y'all talking about?
Just going over, making good money.
By good money, what are we talking about?
6 figures.
Okay. So, was that what you were making, or was what you felt that he could make?
That's what I thought that everyone can make if, you get a job contracting overseas.
So you're talking about doing that, correct?
Yes, sir.
In order to get that job overseas, do you have to go through any, I guess, hoops when it comes to having obviously a passport or anything additional to that?
Yes, sir. You will have to go through a extensive background check. You can't have any large amounts of debt or any kind of child support or anything like that to get your passport.
You also have to get a visa in order to do those traveling.
Yes, sir.
Were these the things that you were talking about with Mr. Segura when you were talking about going to Afghanistan and working in a six-figure job?
Yes, sir.
Warning him about all those things?
Yes, sir.
Did he seem interested in doing that?
Yes, sir.
Seemed like, I mean, I know a whole lot of people that don't want to earn six-figure salaries.
Exactly.
Okay. And again, this was around November 2010?
Prior to that.
Okay.
Prior to that time frame.
About how much prior to that time frame?
Before I even left, we always talked about going overseas, you know, making money and stuff like that. So that was prior to that, me leaving.
Okay.
Months before.
All right. What about when you came back? Was he asking you, when you said you had a little bit of break there when you came back, was he asking you about how it was, or those kind of jobs still existed, things like that?
I mean, briefly, I don't think we talked too much about it. Once I came back on vacation, we didn't get to really talk when I came back home, so.
Okay, but it's something you discussed, sometime 2000.
Prior to.
Before you left and all that
Yes.
stuff. Okay. Now you keep talking about how you do military and fire and stuff. Were you a military man?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What branch did you serve?
Army.
When was that?
97 to 2001.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
Based upon, I guess, not only Army, I know that a lot of people that aren't in the military are familiar with firearms. Are you familiar with firearms?
Yes, sir.
Okay, in part because of your military experience?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Have you ever known Henry Segura to have a gun?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Are you familiar with handguns?
Yes, sir.
Semi-auto versus revolver?
Yes.
Okay. What kind of gun did you know Henry Segura to have?
32 revolver.
A 32 revolver?
Yes.
You sure about that?
I'm positive.
I'm showing you previously introduced evidence of 147, and I'm not saying that this is the gun, but is that similar to the gun that Henry Segura had?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Looks familiar?
Yes, sir.
Long barrel like that?
Yes, sir.
Rounded? Butt?
It was a little squared off, but somewhat like that.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. When did you see him with this gun?
He was getting ready to go on a job, and I seen it in the front seat of this vehicle, this Buick he used to own. He was getting ready for a job to head out. That's when I seen it.
Would have been around 2010?
It was prior to that. It was before that, months before that.
Months before November 2010?
Yes,
All right, so in the summertime 2010?
probably so.
June, July, somewhere in there.
Somewhere up in that time frame. It's been a while since
Okay.
we had that. You know.
And that would have been about the same time you're talking now about the jobs in Afghanistan and stuff, correct?
Correct.
Mr. Segura, do you see him here in courtroom today?
Yes.
Can you please point him and indicate an article of clothing he's wearing?
He's in sitting up front in a black suit and tie.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Cross.
You've already made it pretty clear, but I just want to make certain about it. You never saw him with that gun after you saw him in the summertime, correct?
Correct.
And that was before he got shot, before he got that injury.
Correct.
Thank you. No further questions.
Redirect.
No, Your Honor.
All right, you can step, oh, I'm sorry. Any juror have a question? Sometimes I forget, but any juror have a question? All right, you can step in. We need to keep him any further.
No, Your Honor.
You're excused. Thank you for being here. You're free to go. Call you next witness.
Your Honor, I think this is probably a pretty good time to end for the day.
Okay. All right. So you're gonna have 4 days. We're not meeting tomorrow, as I told you, and we're not meeting Monday. Say maybe we ought to meet Saturday. So, that's all right. But anyway, 4 days. Don't let anything occur. Don't talk about the case with anyone. Don't let anybody talk to you about the case. need to be back. Y'all are doing great on our schedule, getting here promptly, we appreciate that. So Tuesday morning, 8:45, same place, same time. Anybody have any questions about what's expected of you? Have a real good weekend, thank y'all. Everybody be seated, please. Anybody have any issues?
No, Your Honor.
Let's talk about scheduling again. I apologize. I'm a little testy today, but that's all right. I guess y'all
Yes.
expect that, but a little on edge. I think the bottom line is we have to figure out a way to have the evidence done by Tuesday, November 19th. We need to have it to the jury by Wednesday, November 20th. We're gonna run into scheduling problems. I mean, it'd be nice we did it before then, but I think those have to be our deadlines. Both of you having some scheduling issues. Strikes me that, y'all might want to have some discussion. There are some of the defense witnesses that are kind of, I know there's some that go together, but then there's some I'm looking back at a transcript from last time about an inconsistent statement here, or inconsistent statement there. The states have a little issue filling in their schedule. You're wanting to have a witness come later. I wonder if y'all could have some discussion maybe of calling some witnesses out of order just to keep everything flowing. I know that probably if Mr. Santos testifies, there's going to be some substantial rebuttal that, there could be some of that done that wouldn't necessarily relate to the DNA stuff. I'm not demanding that you do it. I'm just suggesting it might help ease some scheduling issues, so, for both sides.
As long as you're open to that, I think we can probably make arrangements to do rebuttal in the middle and then go back.
Right. I know it's going to relate to what you're rebutting or what you're,
Yes.
presenting, but it just seems to me there could be some opportunities to do that. If we get to a point where we need to go late, to get on that, to stay on that schedule, we can do that too. If we're gonna do that, we probably need to give the jury a heads up ahead of time that we're going to do that. But I want y'all to think about it. And frankly, on that schedule, we're not gonna have any time to have a break before a penalty phase. Should there happen to be a penalty phase, we're gonna have to roll right into it. So I know there was some discussion of having a day in between or so. That schedule's not going to allow for any delay there. We're just gonna have to be ready to push on. So anyway, those are just some thoughts I was having, and I was kind of looking back over what the defense called last time. You did call a lot of witnesses, but I say it's kind of a hodgepodge of things that don't necessarily all have to go together. All right, any issues from anybody?
No, Your Honor, I think we can probably work with that, no problem at all.
Mr. Prince?
No issues, Your Honor.
All right, we'll see y'all Tuesday morning, 8:30.
All right, so we'll start at 9 tomorrow.